Okay, here we have Yana's landing. We'll just kind of watch it through right here. You can see her setting up. It's late in the day. There's almost no wind, which means you're going to glide a little further than maybe you're used to against the wind. And you can see she's a little higher than the tree when she's bringing it in. And she sees she's going to go a little bit long. Spectators are kind of commenting about it. And she comes in to land. She goes for the flare and slides in on her butt. She's fine. It's a little embarrassing, but we can do better than that. So let's talk about it. What happened? She's asking, hey, maybe I flared too early, maybe I flared too late. And you can see, or maybe not deep enough. And she pulls to about her waist right here. Her hands are visible because she doesn't wear gloves, even though it's cold. And I think she has a little more to give. And she's not ready to run. And she's using that airbag. It's not a great idea. It's a good way to kind of compress your back on a harder one, if that's your go-to mode. We should have our feet out, ready to run, tumble, PLF if you have to. That's the better answer. But anyway, she slides it in. I don't think this is the problem. Yeah, she could have done better right there, but let's take it back a step. Let's go back to the beginning here. You can see, again, that she's higher than the tree. Knowing that she's going to glide far with zero headwind, she really should be a little bit lower to start her final approach. Those landings are better with like kind of more longer finals, flatter finals, so that you have a more steady state descent. A little tongue-tied there, excuse me. So she sees she's going to go a little high. She weight shifts and turns. And without even using brakes, she's flying flat and level, and that's not sustainable, so she dives and goes for the landing. So what can we do different? Well, we can be lower to start, but we find ourselves here a little high. Where did this happen? Well, I believe it's this low turn. In this low turn, she uses mostly weight shift, which is nice. She's not using any brakes. You can see her hands are way high. And look what happens, that dive recovery, right? It only dives for so long. Every turn kind of has a dive. And it flattens out and flies flat and level. Now, if you can enlist your Go-Go Gadget legs, we still have our brakes to give. We'd have a nice landing. But she's still way too high. If we did that turn really, really high, we can reestablish flat and level steady state descent and have a nice landing. And her technique would have worked for that. But because she did it just a little bit too high or too low, depending on how you look at it, it flattens out, flies flat and level, and we know what's coming next, a descent. Knowing that we bled all our speed and energy, we might need to flare with a little more authority to salvage this. But if we want to be a little riskier, the better answer is flat and level from further away. But we can keep that turn going a little bit longer. And if that flat and level with zero brakes, and you see it starting to descend right here, we start getting on the brakes and a hard finish, ready to run, we would never have that associated dive. So let's try to time this flat and level horizontal component. You say, oh, but there's no wind. But even with no wind, not that hard to get a flat and level component. We just need to time it right. Now, if you're diving with zero brakes and then the ground's coming, you can stab those brakes and guess what? It's going to flatten out. Look, she flattened out without using any brakes at all. So don't be too afraid of that speed. Speed is your friend. With speed comes control. Let's let it dive in close and you still have your speed to give. This is the same concept that I talk about with speed bar landings. We'll go over in a different video. If you guys want to send some in, we'll review them. But yeah, this turn could have been down a little lower and you would have had nice control for a flare when you needed it. Or do this all much higher so that after this little flattened level that's not sustainable, we can reestablish a basic trim speed and we'll have flare power at the end instead of running out of everything. I hope that helps. I think it's really interesting. You can watch this back and forth and see that it dives and flattens out. Dives and flattens out. Any one of those turns could have been amazing at the right altitude. Unfortunately, she did it just a little bit too high or a little bit too low, depending how you look at it. If she had done it a little higher, she would have reestablished for a nice flare. And had she done it a little lower, she would have flared at any time in that flattened level. And again, let's get ready to run them out. Let's not go for the butt landing. Anyway, that's good for this one. Let me know what you think. Later.